Brian Mendoza showed up to this fight to win. You look at the scorecards on this one, they're kind of wide. You watch the second half of this fight, or maybe you just go back and look at the highlights, you see the power shots, it's going to be easy to assume that Tszyu just ran Mendoza over. But let's not forget, he got this shot because he scored a devastating knockout over Fedor. He recently switched up his trainer, started working with the renowned Ismail Salas, picked up a new strength and conditioning coach. A man doesn't do that when he intends to lay down. It just so happens that when he showed up tonight, he realized that there's levels to the game. Tszyu is operating at a level that's just a little bit above his. Now, we saw this one first round, couple rounds come out. Pretty standard. It was a feeling out process. Now, the thing was, it wasn't a feeling out process in the typical way that you see. Guys weren't just on the outside using a jab, kind of trying to stay out of harm's way. That wasn't the situation here at all. It was a feeling out process because there was a little bit less volume. It was a feeling out process because neither guy really wanted to commit. But these guys aren't known for their jabs. And when they were out there throwing power shots. You know, each man is landing a few shots here and there, but you could feel the tension. You could feel that ultimately something was going to come here, man. And this was just a few rounds where they were trying to figure out the distance, figure out the rhythm, kind of get the timing a little bit and see where each man was at. But by the third round, that's when we saw Tszyu start to get the timing. He's applying his trademark pressure. He's trying to walk Mendoza down. He's throwing some good 1-2s, landing a few hard chopping right hands. But Mendoza was using a lot of footwork on the outside, man. He was really trying to utilize those feints, really trying to utilize the angles. You could see coming into this fight that he had the intention of turning Tszyu, right? He wanted to get in there and as much as possible, he wanted to make Tszyu pick up his front foot, wanted to make him continue to turn. Didn't want to let him walk in straight lines, didn't want to let him get set. And that makes a lot of sense because Tszyu doesn't have the best footwork. You know, so I mean, Mendoza's out there. He's using the angles. He's using the feints. He's landing some shots. But at the end of the day, he just wasn't throwing enough. You know, going into this one, he only averages 42 punches a round. That's significantly below the average. And anytime you don't throw a lot, you really have to control the fight in other ways. You really have to go out there and land significant shots. You have to make sure that your opponent doesn't take the lead. Now, you know, I felt like at this point we were starting to see just the slightest shift towards Tszyu. Now, it was interesting. Broadcast team mentions that Tszyu told him in the fighter meetings that he was going to start to take over after the fourth round. So he went into this one knowing that the first few rounds were going to be this feeling out process, right? He didn't underestimate the man that was in front of him. But he came out saying that he was going to start to take over after the fourth, and lo and behold, man, that is pretty much what we saw, right? Fast forward here to the unofficial scorecard, and you can see that starting in the fourth round is when he really started to take over. He started to get off, started to land multiple hard shots against Mendoza. And look, Tszyu is like a freight train, okay? He is like a freight train in the sense that once he starts to gain momentum, it is hard to stop him. Once he starts to get going, once he starts coming downhill, he is hard to deal with. And as this fight wore on, that is exactly what we see. By the time we get over here to the 9th round, 10th round, especially, oh man, I think that's when you really start to saw Tszyu wear this man down. I mean, and let me add this too, okay? Brian Mendoza has got a chin. This dude can take a shot because he was out there just eating some knockout type punches, right? Knockout punches in the sense that the majority of men get these shots landed on them, they're going down. The majority of people get hit with punches like this. That's it. Lights out. Game over. We're not talking about what happened at the scorecards. The judges aren't involved. The night's getting ended early. I mean, Tszyu a puncher. We know that, man. And, you know, I mean, Mendoza was still moving a lot. He's still using his feints, but you knew that those punches were wearing at him, not only by looking at his face, but by the fact that his offense was really starting to get shut down. He was really muting it. He didn't want to put himself into a position to get caught. And anytime you're throwing punches, anytime you're starting to open up is when you're really presenting opportunities for your opponent to land on you. Man, Tszyu knows how to land a counterpunch, and he hits hard. And you could see at this point in the fight that Mendoza was already starting to shut it down. You know, I mean, it just makes sense, man. And look, let's give credit where credit's due to, and that's to Tszyu, okay? It's easy to look at him and say that you don't really see anything special. You know, you out there, you watch a little bit of tape, nothing really seems to jump off the page. But he continues to go out there and get it done. He continues to step up his level of opposition, and he continues to be impressive. And that's because he does have something special. That's because he is able to go out there and do the little things to confuse his opponents. We say he doesn't have great footwork, but he is able to walk guys down. We say that he doesn't work behind the jab enough, but he is able to. We say that he doesn't work behind the jab enough, but he's able to still go out there and get those power shots off. He gets hit, but his defense is a little bit better than it looks on paper. And we all know going after this one, what's next. We all know who he wants. Really no debate, really nothing up there. It's about Charlo. He's been calling him out for a long time. And look, I'll be perfectly honest. At a point like this, I don't know if we're even going to get that fight. As crazy as that sounds, right? But think about it. Charlo just went out there and by far got the biggest payday of his career. Jumped all the way up to 168. Got the biggest payday that he's ever had. Got smashed in the process for fighting Canelo. How long do you think before he drops back down to 154 and gets into another tough fight? You think we're going to see that in 6 months? I doubt it. I mean, not only does he have the payday, but he's got to let time for his body to adapt. We saw what happened with Roy Jones Jr. back in the day, jumping up to heavyweight, trying to come back down. That's when he got knocked out by Antonio Tarver. I mean, if Charlo's going to be smart about this one, he's going to take some time. And if we know anything about Tszyu, he is not going to wait around. He's an active fighter. He wants to get after it. We're probably going to end up seeing him back in there sooner rather than later. And it's going to be against somebody not named Charlo. I mean, it is what it is, man, right? I mean, that's the business of boxing. But I will say this, number one, Tszyu continues to look better. The man's staying active. He's continuing to grow. He's continuing to evolve his game. He's only getting more confident. So whenever he does end up getting that fight with Charlo, man, he's going to be a much more difficult man to deal with than if Charlo would have fought him, 18 months ago. But I'll also add this. Number two, the way things look right now. Number two, when we're talking about what we're seeing from Tszyu, we're talking about these fights, we're talking about what we're seeing, we have to continue to mention the fact that the man doesn't work behind the jab. He's a pressure fighter who doesn't work behind the jab. When he throws it, it's a good one. When he throws it, it's effective, but he does not throw it enough. Why does that matter? Because when he's fighting an opponent that does use the jab, it stifles him. When his opponent throws the jab while he's trying to apply pressure and his opponent works the jab almost in a defensive way, it throws off his offense. It disrupts his rhythm, right? That's something where I guarantee you Charlo's going to be able to see success. He's going to be able to use the footwork. He's going to be able to use the jab. That's going to cause Tszyu some trouble. Now, look, I'll be the first to admit if Charlo's out there throwing the jab, that's going to present opportunities for Tszyu to counter it, right? We've seen him counter plenty of jabs in the past. I'm sure it wouldn't be the first time. So, that's what makes the chess match great. That's what makes fights like that so enticing. And who knows if and when we're going to get it. So, great performance by Tszyu tonight. Wasn't really that unexpected. I thought the line was a little bit out of whack. He was going off around like minus 670, minus 700, numbers like that. I expected him to win this one. But in the first half of the fight, it was competitive. Tszyu did what he does. He came on late, came on strong, continued to build that momentum. Very impressive performance. Hope we get the fight with Charlo. Not holding my breath. What did you guys think? Were you impressed by this one? Do you think he's going to get a fight with Charlo? He said that, he's coming to Vegas, man. He may not see his fans in Australia for a while. So, hey, I guess we'll see, right? Let me know what you guys think.